Hey guys, Evan here. So, one of the biggest fandoms in the world right now is Marvel. After being around for 90 years, they have books, TV shows, audio productions, educational programs, a 1 in a million cinematic universe, and, of course, decades and decades worth of comics. Today, I want to tell you guys how to get into Marvel Comics. I'll tell you guys what to start off with, how to actually get the comics, and what to read if you're a bit more experienced with them. The first and biggest question is, of course, where can I get comics? Now, this has a couple of answers. Firstly, of course, you can buy them physically. You can get separate issues of a currently running series, a volume of a series that collects 4 to 6 issues, an omnibus of a full series, or, usually if you want to read some older material and want a bit more of it, an epic collection. This is basically just like an omnibus, but like beefed up. Like, seriously, there's so much in here. Personally, I recommend getting either omnibuses or trades, as they're a lot easier to find and better for shelves. As for where to get these, you can Google local comic shops that are near you. Trust me, you probably have one. Or, in the case of trades, you can usually find them in local bookstores like Barnes & Nobles or Waterstones. And of course, just like everything else in the world, you can buy them online. You can also get issues, trades, omnibuses, and even epics digitally on services like Google Play. They are usually a lot cheaper there as well instead of getting them physically. For example, this Fate of the Phoenix Epic Collection is about 30 to 40 euro online, but digitally on Google Play, it's closer to around 20 or even 10 on a sale. However, my personal recommendation on where to read Marvel Comics is Marvel Unlimited. Marvel Unlimited is a subscription service that costs about 11 euro monthly or 70 euro for an annual subscription. It's an amazing service and where I actually started reading Marvel Comics. It has over 25,000 issues, reading guides, you can download an unlimited amount of comics, and they even have things called Infinity Comics, which work like webtoons, where you just scroll up to read instead of page by page. You can even follow characters and creators to see everything they've been in. For example, I'm following characters like Wiccan, the Scarlet Witch, and Miles Morales, and creators like Derek Landy and Alan Heinberg. No, this isn't an ad. I'm not popular enough for that. I just really like the app. It's how I discovered my love for characters like Miles Morales, the Young Avengers, and the Runaways, and how I read a ton of classic storylines like Avengers Disassembled, House of M, and the Dark Phoenix Saga. It's also where I first read most of my physical Marvel collection. Now, once you figure out where to read your comics, what should you read? After all, there's over 90 years of content, thousands of series and stories, and so much backstory. I mean, you gotta read it all, right? Let me tell you a secret. You don't need to read everything to understand something. For example, I read House of M last year, and Avengers Disassembled a couple days ago, even though House of M leads on directly from Avengers Disassembled. All I needed to know while reading House of M was that Wanda had gone crazy trying to get her kids. I didn't need every single bit of Avengers history and the entire story of Vision and Scarlet Witch. I just needed that one detail. Plus, if you really need to know something, it'll be explained in the story. Trust me here, I learned this the hard way. You don't need to read everything. You can read everything, and everything is good, but you don't need to if you don't want to. As for starter reading, there are some amazing titles you can start with. The first of these is actually a really recent read for me, Miss Marvel. The only context you need for this is that a bomb went off releasing something called the Terrigen Mist that unlocked powers in a species of people called the Inhumans. Seriously though, this comic is great. It's heartfelt, funny. Miss Marvel has such a good personality and blends well with other heroes, and it's just such a good series. I highly recommend it, and it's a great starter as well because you don't need to know the whole Marvel universe. For example, I mentioned that the Inhumans are a big part of it. If you don't know what the Inhumans are, that's fine. Neither does Kamala Khan. So, because they're explained to her, they're explained to you, meaning you'll now know what the Inhumans are. Seriously though, read this comic. It's amazing. Read the whole series. I read the original 2014 run a while back, and it was so good. And now that I have Marvel Unlimited, I have literally saved all of her main series to my library because I'm so excited to continue with the character. Another great starter series is the original Young Avengers run, which is my favorite Marvel comic of all time. I actually started with this myself, and it's amazing. It has characters that you might know from the MCU, like Kate Bishop and Cassie Lang, and characters that are going to be introduced to the MCU, like Patriot, Wiccan, and Hulkling. This series follows a team of young heroes trying to be the new Avengers after the Avengers have disassembled. They also end up fighting Kang the Conqueror in like their first storyline. It's a lot. I highly recommend this original run and the 2013 run by Kieran Gillen, which includes characters like America Chavez and Kid Loki. Seriously, both of these series are amazing. Another great character series is Runaways. I don't own this one physically. This series follows a group of kids who discover that their parents lead a supervillain cult and, well, run away. They all have special powers like power gauntlets, being an alien, and having a telepathic connection with a velociraptor. No, I am not joking. Her name is Old Lace, and she is amazing. The Marvel elements of this series are mainly background. For example, one of the characters is a mutant, a Skrull gets introduced, and their appearances by characters like Cloak and Dagger and Captain America. Seriously though, you can read this and only have a baseline Marvel knowledge. It's that good. There are 4 runs of this, and personally, I mainly recommend the 2003, 2005, and 2017 ones. But like, read all of it if you can, because it's amazing. The final piece of starter reading I recommend is Ultimate Comic Spider-Man. Now, you might think I mean Ultimate Spider-Man from 2000, but nope, I mean Ultimate Comic Spider-Man from 2011, starring the main man himself, Miles Morales. Now, you might recognize this character from Into the Spider-Verse, and that's actually why I started reading his comics, and guys, his comics are so good. Like, so good. Don't start with Miles Morales, The Ultimate Spider-Man, though. That's his second solo series, and the only reason I'm showing it is because of the fact that it's the only physical Miles comic that I own. I binged all of Miles' series last year, and guys, he is amazing. His personality is infectious, he's got such a big heart, and he interacts with the Ultimate Universe amazingly. The only context you need, this takes place in an alternate universe from the main Marvel universe, and Peter Parker is dead. You can actually read his stories in the Ultimate Spider-Man series that I mentioned earlier. Now, for the people who already know comics, here are my recommendations for you. The first recommendation is, unsurprisingly, the 2015 Scarlet Witch solo run. Guys, the series is so good. It follows Wanda dealing with mystical problems all over the world, and the issues feel very separate, but still have an overarching story about Wanda's past. Yes, it's getting changed again. This series is amazing, and the art is astounding. Like, I swear to God, it's so good, so beautiful. It changes every issue, and sometimes even on location. Like, it's so good. Read it if you get a chance, because it is amazing. Another must-read is, of course, the Dark Phoenix saga. For X-Men movie fans, you need to read this especially. The Last Stand and Dark Phoenix did not do it justice. And fun fact for Stranger Things fans, the name Hellfire Club actually comes from the storyline. This storyline follows Jean Grey pushing her powers way too far and becoming the Dark Phoenix. Now, this of course is built up. She got possessed by a cosmic entity and psychically manipulated, all that kind of stuff. But seriously, read this. This is one of the most famous comics ever. Not just Marvel comics, not just X-Men comic, most famous comic ever. Read it. It's amazing. My final recommendation is what I like to call the Scarlet Witch saga. Okay, this is made up of the storylines Avengers Assembled, House of M, and Avengers Children's Crusade. Avengers Assembled is a storyline where, after discovering that people had hidden her memories of her children from her, Scarlet Witch destroys the Avengers in every sense of the word. Now, this is like the MCU, where her kids were manifested by her and not actually technically real, but still, they're her kids. It influences a lot of the Marvel Universe for the next couple of years, especially Avengers story, and leads directly into House of M, a storyline where, desperate to get her children back, Scarlet Witch creates an entirely new reality. This story is insane, and the ending changes Marvel for the next couple of years. Like, it's insane. The final story of the saga is Avengers: The Children's Crusade. This follows Wiccan and... where is he? Wiccan and Speed, the reincarnated children that I mentioned earlier, trying to find Wanda after she's gone into hiding after the events of the last 2 stories. This 10-issue series is amazing, and I highly recommend it. For this storyline, you actually do need to read the Young Avengers storyline, as this is where Wiccan and Speed not only find out that they're Wanda's children, but also, meet and we learn about the characters. Fun fact, I read all these stories in the reverse order. I read it Young Avengers, Children's Crusade, House of M, and then Avengers Assembled. But I'll be doing a proper read through soon. So, those are my opinions on how to get into Marvel Comics. Please leave your tips, tricks, and especially your reading recommendations down in the comments, and feel free to like and subscribe while you're down there. Goodbye and good luck.